Welcome to the June board meeting. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the board met in executive session for some legal and personnel issues before the meeting. We will not be going back after the meeting at this point. Secretary correspondence, nothing. IU report?
Just that we meet Wednesday night, so when we come back, I'll have a full report for you.
All right, and Mary Ravenfeld is not in attendance tonight due to a prior obligation, so we don't have a legislative report from her. Any other reports? All right, seeing none. There's no recognitions tonight because those that are left in school are having finals or getting ready for their ending day party in the morning. So those will resume in the fall. And our student representative is also home studying for finals, I think. So, all right. Superintendent update.
Many of the updates we have shared throughout the last meetings. This is a very exciting time of year and many great happenings that have already been shared. So we'll just give a few highlights. The first one is Math 24 game. And the Math 24 game is where students compete. The Chester County competition had our students from General Wayne competing, and they did an amazing job. And you can see the winners there represented in the Chester County IU competition. We also have our Shakespeare Festival, and this was our Great Valley Middle School students, a Midsummer Night's Dream, and they participated in the Chester County Shakespeare Festival. The middle school group received the Dream Team Award and the Classical Shakespeare Award. So congratulations to those students. They did an awesome job. Our Great Valley High School students were selected to the junior corps, the highest level of drum corps. They will travel this summer performing throughout the United States. We had junior corps members in 10th grade, Tyler DeTulia, Christopher Milner, Garrett Thomas, and Evangelo Quan, and I was not going to say this incorrectly. So Kumo Unotis is a 9th grader. Excellent job to those students. And finally, many of you have seen this, about our Great Valley junior, Amy Willig, who finished 6th in the 800 at the PIAA State Championship, and she also broke the record for Great Valley. Awesome job to Amy. And finally, we spoke about this, and Tyler had shared this about the class of 2018 with the graduation stroll. You can see the students there. They made signs for our visiting seniors. It was an amazing day. There were a lot of tears, and I think Mr. Barrett's son even enjoyed some of the playground activities in their cap and gown. They were reliving elementary school. And finally, graduation was Friday night, and it was a great celebration and culminating opportunity for the seniors to be together one last time. Our upcoming events, we have a number of band camps held throughout the summer, and those are listed there. Finally, as you scroll down, August 20th, we will be back again for our school board meeting to kick off the 2018-2019 school year, and September 4th will be our first day of school. So tomorrow, as students are leaving, they can think fondly of returning on September 4th. Cannot wait.
Which is the day after Labor Day this year.
Yes.
Hasn't been in a while, and we all know it's your favorite day of the year.
Yes, it's like Christmas to me, the first day of school. So it'll be very exciting. I'll wait with bated breath, and if anyone is lonely, they can feel free to come and visit if they can't wait till September 4th to come visit. Finally, in the superintendent's report, we just wanted to share the 2018 survey review. And as we talked about in our goals, we had a number of surveys given. So this is the overarching, culminating report of all the survey results. So we had administered Youth Truth Survey. That survey was given to students, parents, and staff members. Gallup poll was given to students, and that's given every year in October. We also administered the athletic surveys. They're given at the end of every season to parents. And finally, special education surveys given to, they're given throughout the year at the annual IEP meeting, an opportunity to complete a survey for special education. And then GIEP surveys are given after gifted meetings on an annual basis as well. So all of the survey results are presented here in this review with themes that bring everything together. So as we go through this, you'll see for the surveys, the common themes that are identified were engagement, culture, and relationships. And for many of these surveys, for the Youth Truth Student Survey and Parent Survey, this is the first year. So as we talked about the Gallup and for our gifted, much of this is, and our athletic surveys, much of this is baseline. So we're looking at where we are now and wanting to, of course, improve in these areas, identify those areas of celebration and then those areas of continued work to do. So for Youth Truth, we heard from over 4,500 Great Valley community members, 363 staff, 1,115 parents and guardians, and 3,105 students. So the surveys were done online, and that was those were the response, the number of responses. In the celebrations for the Youth Truth surveys, the feedback we received was the teachers build strong relationships with students. Students were overwhelmingly positive about their teachers showing them respect, being willing to give extra help on schoolwork when needed, and treating students fairly. Students report a positive school culture. They agree that their peers are friendly to them, they behave well in class, and they collaborate on schoolwork together. Families feel respected and welcomed compared to other schools across the country. Great Valley families are more likely to say that their school creates a friendly environment. Youth Truth is a national survey tool, so when it says that compared to other schools across the country, that looks at schools using the Youth Truth survey across the United States, and then we can also drill down and filter to schools like ours. So suburban schools of our size, and we do that when we drill down administratively, when we talk about what we need to do better, and those things we're doing well, we don't want to mess with. The next slide is our focus for next year as it relates to Youth Truth: improved communication with staff. Staff want to feel more informed about and involved in important decisions regarding the school. More tailored professional development. They report a need for more professional development that provides them with content support, and an increased awareness of college and career resources. And this came from the students, that while seniors reported they felt prepared, younger students were less aware of the resources, and they felt as though there was much more to do at the end of their high school, and they wish they would have been more prepared at the beginning of their high school.
Can you define what content support is?
Yes. So, for example, we have strands of employees, some non-teaching professionals, for psychologists, guidance counselors. They would like differentiated professional development aligned to what they need rather than global professional development like engagement. So to differentiate professional development, much as we differentiate instruction for our students. In the Gallup poll, the survey results, we heard from 2,221 students in grades 5 through 12 about engagement. And engagement is the involvement in and enthusiasm for school. And you can see the grade mean by grade. This is on a scale of 1 to 5. The closer to 5, the more engaged or the more favorable they were about engagement in school and in class. The next slide just shows you an example of some of the questions that were asked and how the students answered with the Likert scale of 1 to 5. The celebrations from the Gallup poll, we scored above the national average in feeling safe at school and having at least one teacher that excites them about the future. And again, we use the Gallup poll results within each of our settings to say, at the end of every year, the administrators will look and make a plan with their own building as far as what are the areas that we need to work on.
Regina, do we have do you have the results by school so you can look and
Yes.
Okay.
We have the results by school. We don't have the results. The results are nationally normed, and Dr. Goffredo shares, and Dr. O'Toole, they share with each of the building administrators so they can make a plan by their school.
Because some things may be higher in one school or another, and then you can.
Absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
great.
The other survey we give that we did not report out here, but we do some triangulation with our PAYS survey, which is the Pennsylvania Youth Survey of Risky Behavior. Because the things in the Gallup poll, that's a national survey, where PAYS is a Pennsylvania survey. But when we look at areas of vulnerability with risky behaviors in certain classes, we want to compare it with our Gallup poll results to say, what is the sense of belonging and connectedness to school and feelings of hope? Oftentimes, risky behaviors align to a lack of those things, like a lack of feeling connected to your school community and a lack of hope for your future. Again, the athletic surveys. And in the athletic surveys, these are fall and winter parent survey results. We are sending the spring results are out and not collated yet, but the average response rate is 26%, and families were surveyed at the completion of each athletic season. The celebrations were the communication, and again, this is all sports. So the coaches overall well-liked, respected, and communicate well with parents. The parents felt that they were satisfied with skill and team development. The culture was a fairness, and that fairness and sportsmanship were emphasized. That was a highlight of the surveys. The focuses for next year: engagement, increased parent and community involvement with the teams, culture and relationships to decrease the perceived feelings of favoritism. There were some survey results that indicated that on some teams, in some pockets, there was a feeling that there was a perception of favoritism, and that's something we want to drill down. Mr. Wren uses the survey results to meet with specific coaches and shares specific comments related to those sports. Then the communication, improved communication, interpersonal and web, and that was the communication. A lot of that was around when things were changed, practices were changed, events were changed, how is that being communicated, and communicating with parents, not just with students. This was given at the middle school and the high school, so especially with some middle school communication, to make sure that that communication got to parents.
Can I ask a quick question about the survey? I see that we had more than half of the student body answer the other survey, and only a quarter of them answered this. Is part of your increased parental community involvement with teams something that you want to increase this response rate? Because the only thing I worry about is if students are worried about how they're going to be perceived by their coaches, that they might not answer a survey about their
This isn't
teams.
students. This athletic survey is given to parents.
So you know what, like, but is this something that we want to try to increase the percentage of, like, are there reasons why the parents are not, because we seem to be, it's a low percentage for Great Valley.
And this
as
is the
far as
first year,
surveys.
and this is, it is an anonymous survey, but that said, people's trust in the anonymity of a survey is oftentimes questioned. It is done online, and it's done using SurveyMonkey. All the results are triangulated, and it is truly anonymous.
That's what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Just to
Yes.
kind of help people, because I know that sports and athletics and athletic type activities, I don't know if you're including, I'm assuming you're including Drama Guild and all that kind of stuff in these kind of responses, that parents know the survey, like, just in case, like, that we do what we can to.
Absolutely. I would definitely encourage parents to have a voice, so thank you. And that, hopefully that percentage will continue to increase. These surveys are going to continue on a yearly basis.
Regina, I'd just like to add, I know Jen's point, that this was a low percentage. I will tell you that in the last 3 to 5 years, the percentage was even less, and it was because of trust. Sports parents would not speak to us because of their perceived retribution within the sport, and that's very difficult, so I'm not judging them for that. But what I will say is, to have this many is a real testament to the admin. I think the fundamental thinking between the parents and the district may be changing a little bit, and there is more faith and trust with us because they certainly did come out and give us some worthwhile information.
And we'll continue to work with, I think one of the incentives, if folks see that the survey results will actually be used to bring about action, they'll be more likely to continue to participate in surveys. And that's really the purpose of this, to really set our focus, to listen to what people have to say and try to move the needle in a positive direction.
And one other comment, I'm really happy to see the responses that we're getting back about the great things that our teachers are doing in the classrooms. You know, this district has always valued the relationship. It's nice that our teachers are the highest paid in the county, and I'm thrilled to see that our parent population and our kids are recognizing and actually reporting out to us the great things that our teachers are doing. So that's a great thing.
The next two surveys are done, now this is not done at specific times of year. This is a rolling survey, so after a parent would have the annual IEP meeting, they're given the link to participate in the survey. So this survey deals with special education services, and it follows the annual IEP cycle, which happens throughout the school year. So the celebrations in special education were the thoroughness of evaluations, the individualization of programming, the working hard to support best interest of the child, the relationships, and under relationships, the celebration of the relationship and personal care with students and staff professionalism, communication, transitions, post-secondary, and between grade levels, especially as students transition from one building to another, from an elementary to the middle, from middle to high. The empathy, communication, and knowledge was an area of celebration. The areas of focus under communication, and this was in dealing with the communication of the general education teachers, understanding the IEP and specially designed instruction. The parents want to hear more from the general education teachers, not just the case managers. So what happens is the case manager or the teacher of special education is assigned students on their caseload, and then they work collaboratively with the general education teachers. So we want to make sure that we're increasing that communication overall. And then to decrease the overemphasis on assessment, reviewing multiple data points to assess progress. Progress monitoring is a legal part of special education and oftentimes requires additional assessments, and that came through loud and clear in the surveys that there was a hope that we could decrease some of the assessment.
Special education service is the only one you didn't say what the percentage of respondents were.
And because that's a rolling, it's approximately 30% of our parents that have IEP meetings respond.
In theory, every parent once a year should get the link to this.
Yes.
So if a parent has an IEP meeting and doesn't get a link to this for whatever reason,
they should definitely contact Dr. Wexler's office, and that can happen. The difference is it's the email for the link, and it's not done in massive communication. So it's not that if Mrs. Burl and I were friends and she would say, did you do the survey? It's not happening at the same time. So that could attribute for some of the, not a lot of buzz about it because it's triggered by an IEP meeting. It's not triggered by.
Our special education parents are some of our most vocal parents. And I think, and it's interesting that there's only 30% of them that respond. So it makes me wonder if there's any kind of communication issues on our end. These are parents who might seek us out and say, where is my survey link? If they knew for a fact that there was a survey coming to them. So that's my only.
And absolutely. And if there's anything we can do to make sure parents are very aware of that. Thank you.
And I just want to add, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I just want to say that having had a child with an IEP since second grade, a parent that's happy is not looking for the survey. They have nothing to complain about. The fact that only 30% of our parents filled in the survey actually says to me that I think that some of we've made a shift with some of these things, because the feedback I'm hearing from our special education programs and our initiatives that are in place now, people are getting a lot happier than they've been in the past. So that may be the reason why that disaggregate group is lower, no?
We do have a lot of really positive comments, and Dr. Wexler and her team have make sure that they share those with the teachers or the staff members or the administrators, whoever that is getting the positive comment, because it's nice to hear. Sometimes we hear negative much more quickly, so it's nice when someone takes the time to actually write a response that says kudos. We just received, I know Dr. Souders and I and Mr. Hammond and I just received 2 emails just letting us know of how much folks appreciate, and that's always nice to hear and to share with those staff members that they're appreciated. I'm sorry, did you have something? Okay. The focus for next year, the engagement and culture, psychologist involvement in attending IEP meetings, after-school inclusive programs and club opportunities, parent training to assist with generalizing skills learned at school and into the home environment, and just a reminder that the Special Education Parent Advisory Council holds monthly informational sessions, and that is around parent training. And it's usually generated by topics of interest to the group, and that's done on a year-long basis. So for folks who don't know that, it's really been amazing. Helping teachers to understand the needs of students with invisible disabilities, such as high-functioning autism, attention deficit disorders, executive functioning, and emotional disorders, and then increased post-secondary options for students that may be looking at a path other than college. Our gifted education parent surveys, the celebrations, the culture, warm and supportive learning environment, true understanding of student strengths, communication, consistent communication, and strong team support. Again, GIEPs are the same way as special education, the annual cycle, so the rolling survey. Engagement, assisting with organization or needs that can mask gifted abilities. Then also assistance with helping students to access service activities. What surveys are included, and again, this is a reminder, it's Youth Truth, Gallup, Athletics, Special Ed, and Gifted. The common themes are engagement, culture, and relationships. Our timeline, Youth Truth is given to students in October, parents and staff in February. The Gallup poll is given in November. The athletic surveys are given at the end of each season, and Special Ed and Gifted surveys are given in an ongoing way throughout the year. So if you are speaking with anyone and they have not heard about the surveys, be more than happy to check and find out why that link might not be delivered and make it happen.
Regina, is it possible to put these surveys on our website, listing them, calling them exactly what you're calling them, so that if someone doesn't get a survey or is in need of giving information, they can be directed to get the survey off of the website? Could we do that?
We can actually put this timeline on if that's helpful to people so they can be expecting it.
Or it might be good to put the timeline in a hyperlink to the person who they ask questions of. So if you don't get the special ed, you go to Joanna Wexler, but I'm sure Joanna Wexler does not want to deal with the athletic surveys. So, that's what I'm saying, a hyperlink on the website.
Absolutely.
So that if you don't get it, it hyperlinks to the person who you need to ask.
That would be great. And just for everyone's knowledge, Youth Truth, that would go to the building administrators. Gallup poll, that would go to Dr. Gaffredo and Dr. O'Toole, I believe, because it's a little person, a student issue. Athletic surveys would be Mr. Wren, special ed, special education, and gifted education would go to Dr. Wexler. So we'll definitely make that happen. Did you have a question?
Just a quick question, because I think there was a discussion before about the athletic surveys. Those are just for athletics, right? Just coaches of sports. It's not drama, it's not anything else.
They are just for athletics, but as I heard the question, I'm thinking we can definitely add activities as well. Yes, it was done this year for athletics. And that was much in response to some concerns I had that were raised around the hesitancy to share and to really try to get a gauge on what was happening.
And I think that hesitancy in the past, I'm not sure so much right now, but that hesitancy in the past has gone across those, into some of those other those larger group EDRs that aren't necessarily athletic. They fall kind of in the cracks between, like.
Same thing when people are selected, really, where like drama, where someone's going to be selected to do something and they might be afraid of talking because they would be afraid.
Absolutely, that's not a
anything
problem
where
to
there's a
include that.
selection of some sort.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that's all the presentations for this evening. Can I do some, enter the voting part of the meeting? So before we vote on anything, I will open the microphone up for any comments on any voting sections of the meeting. There will be another comment section at the end on any other items that you'd wish to speak to. But right now, it's just for anything that's on the voting agenda. If you want to come to the podium and state your name and residency, and if you could limit to 3 minutes or less, it would be appreciated. All right, seeing none. First thing up, the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion for 7.01 through 7.21?
Move to approve 7.01 to 7.21.
Second.
All right, a motion, a second. Any questions around any of these?
Yeah, can you review just how bids are, the process for bidding?
Chuck, can you give us a synopsis?
In general, or,
And you're just
Yeah.
looking for generality?
General.
so,
I had an email from a constituent who was concerned about one of the items, and I just want to make sure that the information's out in public about how
well,
bidding happens.
in accordance to Board Policy 610, some services you don't even have to bid, as most of the services on here, which, any of the professional type services, so, but we choose to do RFPs for them anyway. At least we've started doing them a little more aggressively recently. So there's an RFP which is put out. We try and solicit from as many vendors as we can. We receive them, we review them. Generally, the department that's involved with them analyze them, and then they're brought to you for award.
And those bid returns could be anywhere from 0 bids to many.
Yeah,
multiple, right?
we've had 0, we've had 1, we've had,
Multiples, right, yeah.
3. So,
Does that suffice? Samantha, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So a follow-up on that, there were two specifically, the 708 and the 710. So were those ones subject to RFP? That was the electrical one and the food service one?
yes.
Okay.
Actually, the electrical one, I'll go in a little detail on that. We put an RFP out several months ago, had 1 respondent. We were not happy that we only got 1 respondent, so we kind of pulled back, tried to solicit more respondents. Looked to the state contracts to see if we could solicit a state contract for the same thing, which we can do. Found out that the state contract was actually higher than the original RFP, so thus we bring back the original RFP. So that RFP is there for your approval. You also note down in finance, we have an emergency kind of RFP, which we just got Friday for the telephone pole that was breaking in half coming up the back driveway from the same company. So it's a little smaller, but that's what we did. And the 7.0, what was the other one? 8 and 10. Yeah, 10 is RFP for food service staffing. That's for substitute cafeteria people. So the total amount of this contract will be lucky to be a couple $100 a month. We did receive 3 quotes on this one, 3 RFPs, and the recommendation is the one that's selected there, so.
Thank you. And then I had one other question unrelated to those, but another item, 704. Could you just explain the budget transfer process, what that means that we're voting on budget transfers? I know we talked about it a little bit before.
Well, sure, every year, and
Everybody's-
every school district in the Commonwealth does this, or else they've got their budget way inflated. Budget monies are transferred around to bring budgets in line. We have to bring the budgets in line. So in accordance with the board policy and in accordance with the state guidelines, we have you approve budget transfers to bring them in line for the end of the year.
That's just to bring the specific buckets.
Right.
To
So
balance them.
the overall dollar amount can't change, but if we needed to spend a little bit more on snow removal and we took it out of the substitute budget, it's the true up at the end of the year. And rather than Chuck bringing them every single time, that everything kind of moves around, he brings them all at once, if I remember that correctly.
Right, I mean, you can do them every month. We choose not to, we have never done them every month. We've always kind of waited till the end of the year. It's policy 687, I'm having a little trouble with.
So we're transferring from regular, a lump sum from a regular programs line to a list of various areas where we had overages that we need that
Correct.
money for.
Correct.
And just to remind everybody, the electric work that is on there is not normal service electric work. It has to be a specialized kind of electrician. This isn't, you can't just hire a regular electrician to work on this high of an amperage circuit. So
One of the
it
things
looks
we found-
high, but it's a different.
Yeah, one of the things we found with the electrical RFP is the job is too big for the small guys like Joe Electric. And the big companies, it seemed like it was too small for. So the two jobs there, one is for the hooking up all of our servers that in the schools, and the one that said Conestoga meant to say Charlestown. Servers onto our generator. The other one is the big issue we had at the high school with the circuit breakers behind the stage in the auditorium, so.
It's like 600 amperage circuits,
Yeah,
so
so
it's not something that your run-of-the-mill guy who fixes your house is going to be able to work on. These are not normal. The breakers are like $5,000 a piece.
So can we talk a little higher level on RFP? So an RFP is a request for proposal. So, and I'm laying this out, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but we're getting a lot of emails and there's a lot of questions about this. So I want to try to set the record straight. So when we do a request for a proposal, if we need, let's take the cafeteria workers, we put together a list as to what we are looking for in specific. We then develop a list of who are we going to ask to bid on these proposals. And they get the request for proposal, they see what the specifications are. If they're interested in bidding, they turn in a sealed bid. We get them all, we open them, and decide which one we're going to take. That's correct? Do I
It's a
have this?
little, there's a little more involved in that. We generally have a pre-bid meeting where anybody that's bidding must come to the pre-bid meeting. All of our RFPs are available on our website, and believe me, everybody, that's one of the hotter sections of our website. It's, everybody goes there. You know,
Yeah, so we're not just simply picking who we're going to.
now, we're not picking, we do
Right.
select companies
Yeah.
to try that, we have a list of companies that we think will do.
Right.
For example, for the food service RFP, now it's a small bid, we made sure that every one of the 11 respondents for the PCA bid got a copy of this. Now, only three of those 11 responded. The others just thought this was, too small.
So I guess what I'm trying to get out there is that if we don't do an RFP, then somebody sits at a desk with the internet or whatnot and does research as to, okay, well, we need to contract something, and we start down at the bottom, and we spend a lot more time, a lot more effort, a lot more resources and money than we do if we put out an RFP. Because if we put out an RFP, we're not looking to fill these jobs. We're actually putting out there what our needs are, and then we have contractors or vendors that are complying. Is that right, Chuck?
I can tell you from head of facilities, because vendors do from time to time actually call me, the RFP is open to anybody who wants to
Correct.
respond to the RFP. So it could be somebody who's never done business with the school district that we've never ever heard of before.
Yes, and
but-
my point is, absent of doing an RFP, we then have to just go look and fill every service that we need. Is that
And we
right?
absolutely can do that by law and by your board policy. For example, for years, we did not do an RFP for student photography. We chose to do one this year, as we wanted to get that a little more in line and standardized. So we do have the ability, you you have given us the ability to do that, and the state has given us the ability. You do not have to do an RFP or a bid on a service. And I'll go back to, you just negotiate for certain services. Our bus contract, for example, which was up 4 or 5 years ago, was extended through a negotiated settlement. It's service contracts like that. You do not have to do an RFP or a bid. Now, certain things you have to bid. Mostly it's when you're buying actual just materials, or when you're buying equipment, or when you're buying, certain things, if we ever do.
There's a dollar threshold.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck, I have a question for you about 7.06 with the district-initiated tax appeals. We're going to be, I presume, voting on this tonight, obviously, whether it's approved or not, but if it's approved, you're going to start working with the law firm and whatever vendors they work with to...
Well, we have an appraisal consultant.
I understand that. But we're looking at 40 properties. We're going to approve this. Is there going to be a list that comes back to us again before you initiate it, or is it just
No,
you're authorized to proceed
you don't
with
have another
40?
meeting before we initiate this. This has to be filed by August 1st.
Okay,
So the reason you're approving it now is you're approving up to 40, which will be
Up to these 40.
up to these 40. Can't be any more than these 40. It can be less than these 40. Just as a follow-up, we did some investigation on the residential properties. Every residential property that's under appeal, or that we were proposing to appeal, has either resold or had their assessment reduced by an owner-initiated assessment within the past 10 years. Some of them, both. So as we look, their thresholds are in accordance with your policy, and it's a metric. It's basically an objective program that is run and analyzed. Now we'll start digging in to see that the appraiser will actually start to, so to speak, open the book on some of these to make sure some of them we're missing something. Maybe they're under construction, or maybe they're not, or maybe something's happened. So we will get that down. Plus, we don't have the wherewithal to really appeal 40 taxes.
But that's why the list
Exactly.
will
That's why the
shrink
list, we
from
will
40.
start at the bottom and probably clip them off until we get to, our average has been 10 to 15 a year that we've done. They've been more sizable than this as we're kind of drilling down into as we're getting closer to our thresholds. But my guess is it'll be in that same range.
And if you remember last summer, it was the making sure that we had the approval because of the timing. And if you don't have the approval prior to August 1st, you miss the opportunity for all of the appeals. You can't just pick and choose.
And it's my understanding the differential is $10,000 in what they're, or more, it can be more, but it has to be at least a $10,000 differential in what they're currently paying in taxes and what we believe that the assessed value would have them pay in taxes on the other end. And that's the part we're digging in, because if it ends up only being 5,000 then, or whatever, based on the property burned down or who knows what, then those are the ones you start clipping them off.
Right, and our goal, and this is what we've said all along for years since we started this, is to just make sure it's fairness for everybody, because you've got a lot of people who are maybe over-assessed and are afraid to appeal and are paying more money than they should. They shouldn't be paying even more money than they should because their neighbor's not paying enough, even up to the average of what they should. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. The court case from last summer, which requires you to look at all parcels, not just commercial. Prior to last summer, we were looking at mainly commercial properties, but last summer we started doing all parcels, and that's why the list is a little bit longer too.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, so we got,
Wait, Dave, wait, never mind, go ahead. I'm in a different section, keep going.
okay.
I forgot we were inside a motion. It's been a while.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval of 701 through 7.21. All those in favor? Motion passes 8-0. All right, moving on to financial approvals. Do I have a motion for 801 through 809?
Motion.
So moved.
Actually 806, because 807, 808, and 809 are just informational items.
Move to approve 801 through 806.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve 801 through 806 and a second. Any questions?
I just make a couple comments for you, because a couple of these things have been added since last meeting. I'll just want to clarify. The two approved private school ESY services are, while they look the same as what you did in consent, they are actually for other students. So we've had them added. I spoke briefly about the emergency electrical project, the telephone pole that was, if you drove up the back driveway, you would have seen it last week. It is temporarily fixed right now, and we're fixing it Wednesday after school's out. The frontline contract is our ASOP, our substitute scheduling. We just received after last Monday's meeting. And
What do you mean by that? It's a program to schedule? Is that what it is? Just when you say.
It's actually My Learning Plan as well, where we put in all of our conferences, in-services, professional development, and it is also the Oasis, which does our evaluations, our walkthroughs.
So it's a
frontline is
scheduling
the-
software. kind of.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I just was trying to get.
And the Chad's Ford alternative care, it's an example of something that you could do an RFP for, but it's so specialized, you need to have this here, you do not have to do one. Most of our nursing contracts with Justacor, this one, Bayada, whatever, we enter into contracts. I will say that, going back to the contract that we were talking about before, we do like to have a lot of other contracts in case some of the people who get the RFP can't fill positions. It's nice to go to like the third or fourth person, because we need people. If you need a personal care aide and the one we picked couldn't get it, and the second person who's also on there for special ed aides couldn't get it, you want to be able to go to a third person because you need it. And other positions kind of like that.
Just a question on that one. I understand what you're saying about the Criticare, the Chad's Ford Alternative Care. Is that for special education, or is that nursing substitutes that come to, I just want to understand when we use these, or is it like a substitute nurse that we need for school because the nurse is on vacation or out sick?
It could be all.
All of it, okay.
So if you look there, you'll see there's a registered nurse, a licensed practical nurse, teacher's aides. So it gives us the flexibility to, once we have the contract, we can call them if we have a need.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Excuse me. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes 8-0. And again, 7, 8, and 9 are information.
I will mention 7. We received this last week. Every year I get a draft of our, Moody's reissues our rating for our credit rating. So we got our initial comments, and which I go over with our financial advisor, and we make any recommendations back. We saw no recommendations to make back. I will just point out a couple things on there and give the board some kudos for the budget, what they did last week, because it will help us. We do have a great, healthy economy, and our finances are very healthy compared to our AAA rating people. They do mention under finance that our reserves have fallen modestly between 2013 and 2017. And then if you're in that draft, and we will have the final, once we send this back, they'll issue a final thing. And basically it goes to Wall Street. So anybody's holding our bonds. So if you get down to the chart that's down there and you look at the credit trends on all the different things, you see we're improved or we're stable. There are 2 items that we are what's called weakened, which is a cause for concern. One of them you have absolutely no control over, and that's the net pension liability to full value. Good luck. But the thing that you are able to deal with is your available fund balance as a percentage of net operating revenues, and you see it's weakened. So by approving the budget last week and using less reserves, our reserves should go down less than what we had anticipated. So we're hoping that can convert that to a stable, because a few years of a weakened like that could cause you to go from a AAA to what they call a AA1, which is it'd be kind of like just missing the playoffs and you don't get to go to the Super Bowl. So we've been in the Super Bowl every year for the past 20 years because we're AAA. just wanted to,
I was just going to ask you, so this is the absolute first year, because this is the first I'm hearing about it. So this is our first year that we're less than we're weakened, we're AAA, but we're weakened
well,
in
and
that.
I'm not telling you that next year, if it's weakened, it's going to be reduced, but they look at the trends. You know, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, they are just purely driven by data. You know, it must be an awesome place to be, because it's like, nobody yells at you, the data is the data,
Yep.
like math is math, it's just math. So, you know, and they will make a decision on that. You get a little tiny bit of leeway. When we got upgraded from AA1 to AAA, we had a site visit, and the Moody's people came down, and we kind of took them on a tour. It was a while ago. We made sure they didn't go places we didn't want them to go, and they went places where they wanted them to go. So we did that, and we got upgraded, but, and we were I think the third school district in the state to get AAA rating, behind
So the
the two nasty
advantage,
school districts from the east, Lower Merion and TE.
so the advantage of AAA is that if we go out for bonds, we certainly have, get much better.
Yeah,
Right.
I did a little analysis, seems like forever ago, but when we started our building program, and our goal in the building program was to get us to AAA, and when we got to AAA, that virtually saved us millions of dollars in borrowing and borrowing costs. So, number one, you don't have to buy the insurance on top of the issuing the bonds. There's an insurance segment, so that's just a couple $100,000 on each borrowing. And number two, your bonds are rated, you gain about a quarter point when you go from AA1 to AAA.
They've always said the rule of thumb, we've always talked, is 30%, is an amount that would more or less equal 30% of our budget for fund balance, for operating costs. An amount of 30% of our operating costs is what we should be maintaining in our fund balance. I guess that's the right way to put it, right? What is it? Yeah, what is it, Chuck? Because if we're weakened at 25%, what could we do to maintain?
We're at 19.4. They'd like us to be in the 25 range. And now that's, when I say that don't mean that's our big fund balance. They encompass all reserves in that. And so all of our reserves have been going down. Capital reserve, regular reserves, you know, even our food service reserves have gone down. So they all get grabbed into that. So they would like you, you know, we're if you look at the US median, which is comparing us with any other AAA school district. So it's pretty comparable to us. It has nothing to do with demographics. It's just, if you're AAA, there's certain criteria you got to meet. A AAA school district should be about 21%. So we're about 1.6% behind that right now. But that's okay. We're not, I guess the median is not that far off, and that's why we got the weaken. I've been going to the gym, and we're going to get above that someday.
Well, I mean, I think the thing to remember right now is that in the next 5 years, if we're going to have to look at potentially borrowing to build, that this is not the moment that we want to play around with our bond rating. So I just, as we look towards next year and our budget season for next year, I think that that's something that is going to actually have to come into play. I mean, if we've saved millions of dollars because we've paid attention to our bond rating, then I think that this is something that, knowing that in the next 3 to 5 years, we may have to take a look at building something and potentially issuing other bonds, that we really need to make sure that this is a focus as we hit that next financial season.
Even more important than that, if you take a look at your facilities budget over the
Man, you know
next,
how I feel about my facilities budget.
over the next 8 years, we may be borrowing to do our facilities work.
All right.
I just want to draw attention to 8.09 because that is a new item, and it's the MOU with Open Up Resources. This is the pilot. You approved the contract on April 16th, so this has nothing to do with the contract. This is just the awareness of the MOU and how we are going to be part of the pilot so that we can receive the data to best use the resources. So that information is there. It is nothing new with the existing contract for professional development, and that is for secondary mathematics.
On the previous item. I don't know if we're going to go over it or. Yeah. So that report by the Pennsylvania School Board Business Association or something similar to that on school budgets statewide is very interesting, and I think it would interest the public. If it's available publicly, we should, obviously it's in the board notes, so it'll be available that way. But if there's some other way to get that information out, because it discusses a lot of issues that we have discussed as a board here, struggles with the rising cost of pensions and older buildings and all kinds of things that we face that many other schools face.
Yeah, it was on Twitter last week,
Yeah.
it was. It was.
It was on Twitter?
If you follow my tweets, you
If you
would
follow
see
your
it.
kids, that's what we have to do. I just think that, it would really add a lot to the conversation we've had for people who are interested in those topics. There's a lot in there, and it's very nicely laid out with graphics. It's not a lot of reading. If we have any way of sharing that with the public.
We can
I think
put
it would be
that
a-
predominantly on our webpage as well as our Facebook page to make sure that people view that as a specific item.
Or they should follow Chuck's tweets. That's what we should do.
All right, moving on, next thing up is personnel items. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve 9.01.
Second?
You didn't vote
Oh.
on the eights. You just had discussion, but you didn't take a vote.
On what? No, no votes.
807 through 809 were just information.
items.
Okay, I didn't think you voted on it. I thought you had a first and a second. Did they do a vote on 801 to 806?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
All
sorry.
right, that's all right. Better safe than sorry.
Yes.
All right, back to, we have a motion for personnel agenda items for approval. Do I have a second? Second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion? Motion passes 8-0. We have policies for second reading and adoption.
Can I ask a quick question before we go into this? Because I'm the one that asked for that language to be added, and we added, and I'm so sorry, and I just thought about it
can-
tonight, and I'm going to
Can I ask if
apologize.
We have a motion.
Well, but I want to make a motion, and I want to change something in the motion, so I don't know, do I need to say, because we said only doctors can prescribe this instead of any, so if a nurse practitioner prescribes a medicine, then it won't be, it's not our, we put the doctor in our policy.
So the motion is whether or not we,
So. We don't have any motion right now, so I'm trying to find out if I can make a motion to approve these and change the language in that one policy from doctor to medical practitioner.
did that.
Don't we pull the policy and then make the change?
I'm okay, that's what I'm asking. This is why I was like, wait, before we,
Chuck, what do we do?
We could do that.
okay,
Mine won't open,
Approving all
so,
policies except for that one.
Yes.
yes.
Make a motion to approve.
yeah, make a motion to approve all except for whatever policy it is. Mine won't
The
open, so.
51s, 350, I make a motion to approve 10.01 with the exception of the 51, so not 351, 451, and 551.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Sorry. I just-
Questions around the other policies for approval? All right, so we'll table those for further discussion back to the policy committee to revise. The one, all right, so all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes 8-0. All right, no other voting items. At this point, I will open up the podium for any other public comment on any items. When I come to the podium, state your name and residency. All right, seeing, oh, thank you.
Got it.
Hi, good evening, members of the school board. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tressa Otterbein. I live at 2 McCoy Court in Malvern, and I have 5 children. My husband and I are big supporters of the foundation and GVCO and are very active members in our community. To be honest, I am here to support the teachers. I'm not exactly sure what the teachers and contract are asking. I'm not a helicopter parent, and I'm not hugely involved in all that type of aspects, but I felt it was important to let you know how much of an impact they have made on all of my children. I'm going to speak about a whole bunch of teachers, but Mr. DiVirgilio is here, Mrs. Search, and they have also impacted my children. But I want you to know how they go above and beyond, especially after their school day is over, not just for my children, but of all the children in the school district. I'm going to give you a little history on the Otterbein family. We moved into the district in 1998, and by the time my youngest graduates in 2023, we will have had 25 years of teachers helping our family. We moved to London for my husband's work for 5 years, but kept our home because we knew we wanted to be back in this incredible community. During that time, we would come home during the summers, and Ann Hortensi helped us stay current with what the children were covering that year in school here back in the district. She helped our family in so many ways. While living over there, we discovered that my fourth child, John, was severely allergic to nuts, and the school they were attending did not have a nut policy in place. They asked me in London to gather information as to what they should implement, so I contacted Katie Markley and asked them if they could send me something. Going above and beyond her duty, Dr. Schneck sent me a huge packet as to what the district was doing at the time, so I could present it to help the school in London. And they were extremely grateful for this information. Upon coming home in 2008 and starting back at Great Valley, some of my children needed help academically. Quickly, the middle school recognized this and placed Elizabeth in the Reading Support and Wraparound Program, which coincidentally has been cut. Lisa Freeman completely transformed my daughter's life, and it was with her so this program was with her through her entire middle school career. She then continued mentoring her, recommending books and life advice until graduating high school. Again, going above and beyond what she was paid to do. Elizabeth, coincidentally, was president of the NHS in high school, so from going from complete extreme help to the opposite with this help. She also, Lisa Freeman, helped my youngest son, William, with reading, and he is now treasurer on the NJHS with Mrs. Search at the middle school. Another teacher, Jim Simpkins, and I volunteered for many years with the Stride program at Katie Markley, which is the YMCA running club, after school. It was amazing to watch him mentor these young boys, again, going above and beyond what they are paid to do. The arts program in the high school helped and transformed my oldest with, he's here today, creative thinking and thinking outside of the box, which is why he's finding so much success after college. He credits Mrs. Startup and Mrs. Ritchie, which is why you should expose these classes to children, not doing away with them. The arts are extremely important to these children. All in all, I have only singled out a few teachers. There are so many more that deserve credit, but we would be here all night. The Otterbein family has been so blessed by these teachers and the district, but I truly worry what is happening in our community and how much it is changing. How will these teachers and the district be able to handle everything between all the cuts that are happening to the critical programs and all the building that is going on in our townships? How many townhomes are being built? How will the district be able to keep up with having so many children in the classroom? I beg you to take a long, hard look at how these children and teachers will be able to thrive under these conditions and how it will ultimately impact our community. I beg you to please do something. Our community is too special to see these problems happening. Thank you for giving me this time tonight to express my concerns, and have a great summer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Otterbein. I'm the oldest son of Tressa Otterbein. And I wanted to come here to talk to you today about, I recently heard about the potential for not rehiring an art teacher or replacing Miss Ritchie. And I just wanted to give you kind of a background of what happened over the last 7 years that should hopefully maybe convince you to think otherwise in rehiring that position. So I graduated in 2011. I took as many art classes as I could. I couldn't get enough. I did advertising design, I did 2D AP and 3D AP, and I picked as many as I could. Pretty much filled my whole course load with it. And I received accolades in graphic design, and actually my banner was hanging out outside the school on the light posts for the 5 years after I graduated. Then I moved down to Philadelphia University where I studied industrial design, and I actually graduated with excellence in industrial design, top of my class. And now I'm working in the medical industry. I work for Total Scope Incorporated. I'm the lead quality engineer, and I oversee 3 different departments currently in the entire company. I'm traveling around the country a lot. I'm in Nashville a lot. I've been there 6 times this year just for work. And I credit all my success at this moment to my creative problem-solving skills, which were fostered in the art classes at Great Valley. Miss Ritchie and Miss Startup kind of understood that I had the potential to do what I want to do, and I knew what I wanted to do. So they kind of let me explore my talents, explore my skills, and develop my creative process. And I really do think it has led me to where I'm at today. And as we move forward, I think creative thinkers are vital to our economy. As automation becomes more and more mainstream and jobs are being lost to automation, I think creative thinkers are going to be what keep us afloat as we move forward. We need people not just to solve problems for today, but problems for the future. And everything started with a creative idea, everything in our modern world. And so I'd like you to reconsider, filling that position. And hopefully eventually understanding that maybe art is more of a mandatory class. I understand there's budget reasons. But it is a vital part to a young person's development, and I think it'll make Great Valley stand above everybody else if we do so. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? All right, real fast then. The board has tremendous respect for our teachers. This is evidenced by the fact that their salaries remain the highest in the county. Our student-teacher ratio is the lowest in the county, and our healthcare package is one of the most lucrative in the county. So we value our teachers, and we express it that way. As far as the art program goes, the course selection for this coming year didn't change from this year or previous years. The reason for not needing an additional art teacher is based on the fact that the number of courses that children selected for next year is down. And the ability to cover those courses with the 2 remaining teachers exists. So there isn't a need to add a 3rd teacher at this point. That doesn't mean in the future, if things change, that won't be reevaluated, but that's where the situation is at this point. It wasn't that this board made any cuts. This was purely based on the course selection of the students and their desire for their different electives. I think we're very fortunate that our school is able to offer a broad spectrum of electives, anything from art to STEAM to robotics to band to music, et cetera, and facts. And if I left out any, I apologize. We're fortunate. So we continue to support the arts in all of our elective programs. So, any other comments?
Yes. I really appreciate the parents that take the time to come and address us. I was a parent in those same seats for 12 years before I ran for school board. I appreciate the time that anybody puts in. I'm really dismayed that I mean, I've sat at these board meetings all year long, and we have definitively said over and over again that we have not cut programs. So I need to ask again, Regina, have we cut programs? Any programs?
No. This year with art, we evaluated the program, and we have met with a number of student groups, parent key communicators, and Dr. Gafredo and Dr. O'Toole have met with the high school administrative team, with the teachers, and the student requests for the electives in art are down this year. Students have selected alternate courses. Now, that said, we still have a number, and I believe the number, Dr. O'Toole, correct me if I'm wrong, please, 2 or 3 sections still able to be added for students who may not get their first choice in an elective and therefore receive an alternate in the area of art. So we have flexibility to add those courses, and it has been communicated very clearly, I believe for the last month and a half at least, that if that changes as schedules are finalized, the scheduling process at the secondary is certainly not finalized at this point, fitting those courses in, and as we discussed in April and then again in May, that process will continue. And if the need exists for additional courses based upon student requests or student interest, those sections will be added. And that is the way secondary scheduling works. Interestingly, in the area of electives, all of our electives at the high school, at the secondary level, are typically 2 teachers. Family and consumer science, the music, technical education, those are 2 teachers as well. And again, it's every year evaluating, is that enough to meet the need of the student interest? And we'll continue to do that in an ongoing way.
Well, it wasn't too long ago we added a tech ed teacher, correct?
Yes.
Because of the need.
We now have 1.8 in tech ed because of student requests in the areas of engineering.
We also have offered other courses of study. We have STEAM now. There are children that would have been taking some of these traditional electives that are now taking higher level electives or other courses of study. Again, I greatly appreciate all the parent time and effort, because it is not easy to sit through the meetings where we do a lot of work. I'm really sorry. I think it's disrespectful for any wrong information to come out. And when I hear our parents, we fight really hard to keep our programs and to do what's right for kids. When I hear that parents have sat here all night long with an impression in their mind that this board has cut programs, I needed to bring this out. So I appreciate you coming. Please come all the time. I just wish that when you come, we could get to a point where we're sharing the correct information. So thank you for answering that.
Phil, you got.
No, I mean, we've gone to great lengths to support the STEAM initiative. I mean, that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So it seems as if we are taking a pretty holistic approach, much like all of our neighbor school districts. And I do want to thank you, Regina, for your efforts to kind of make sure that we are continuing to maintain that in our school. So thank you.
I do know 2 of the competing programs this year especially, and it is through the work of the efforts of the administrative team, certainly not myself and the high school staff, their willingness to offer the programs. We have a dual enrollment partnership with the University of Pittsburgh, and 2 courses that are electives that have gotten a lot of attention, especially from our younger high school students. I believe it's Java and Python, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. O'Toole, those 2 courses are being offered this year for the first time for a dual enrollment opportunity, and that's very attractive to our incoming high school students to receive college credits from the University of Pittsburgh, being delivered by our high school faculty. So I believe as competing courses become a part of a program of studies, some of the courses are not as readily requested. And that will continue. I'm sure there's an ebb and flow. That's why it's a yearly conversation and a yearly dive into what are students interested in and how can we best meet their needs.
All right, any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion passes. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good evening.